You're listening to This Week in E-Commerce, the Ecom Nation podcast. Dive into the top online retail headlines with your hosts, Paul Waddy and Mal Chia. Let's load up the cart. This Week in E-Commerce, episode 53. I am Mal Chia, and looking better than he's ever looked before is Paul Waddy.
Yeah, I had Botox. No, I bought a Mac. I bought a Mac, Mal, and I'm in the ecosystem.
You are. I'm so proud of you to finally make the jump into Apple Mac land.
Thanks,
and you look fantastic. You look like you're on a Botox and a Ozempic regimen now. With the, not that you needed Ozempic.
No, I'm on it all. Yeah, it's good. I got to say the camera is good. I haven't mastered the usability, but the camera is first class. So a little treat for all of our viewers on this predominantly audio.
This is Ellie. Ellie's the only one who watches the video regularly. Although I did upload our last episode as a video to Spotify, just for kicks, just because they gave me the option. So I went, I'm going to upload the video. And the last episode where we talked about Nike has been our most listened to episode. It's about double the number of listens and views than we normally get.
Awesome. We should upload this to YouTube.
We do upload this to YouTube.
Oh, there's visual.
Yeah, there is visual. So everyone can see how clear you look now. So Ellie, if you're listening to this, please give me the feedback on how good you think Paul looks now. Because the blues in your eyes just really pop on this camera.
Try and keep it under 300 words if you can.
Yeah. Paul, how have you been?
Good. Another good week. Lots happening in general. I feel like you and I have been speaking to athletic brands all week.
I think we have just a lot of active. I don't know. There must be something in the water. It's like when it rains, it pours. There's just so many activewear, health and fitness brands just wanting to chat right now.
Lots. Maybe summer's coming up and everyone's getting ready to get into their summer bod, and the retailers are trying to cash in. How's your week been?
It's been good. I can't believe it's Friday. Like, this week has just flown by. I swear it was like Tuesday, and then I looked up and it's Friday, and I got to think about what I'm doing on the weekend. So,
well, most importantly, what's for dinner? What's for dinner tonight?
What's for dinner? It is sushi tonight. The wife is going out, so she's going out to see a play, Julia, the play about Julia Gillard. So she's gone to see that, which means that it's me and the kids have decided they want sushi. So
okay,
there are definitely worse options they could pick, and I'm very happy with sushi.
Yeah, my kids have decided for the 365th time in a row that they'll have nuggets. So that's good.
Yeah. Well, look, I don't know why, but Oscar loves sushi, in particular cucumber sushi.
Of course he does.
Yeah. He's a good kid.
He's a good
kid. All right. Well, it has been another huge week. Nothing is quite as big as our Nike story. That kind of I wouldn't say it broke the internet, but it definitely broke my LinkedIn, which has been fantastic. So a lot of people responding to that, and we did quite a good deep dive, I thought.
It was a red hot. Seems like we did. I think it was a red hot piece of news, which is it's resonated with people, big. I guess it's when things don't go well at Nike, that kind of gets people to sit up and pay attention. But I mean, I get another week comes, Mal, and there's also there's at least 3 pieces of fairly significant news again. It just feels like at the moment there's so much happening.
There is.
We say that every week, what could we talk about this week? And then it's oh yeah, no problem.
Something always comes up to surprise us. Look, and there's actually plenty more. In particular, Attentive are delaying their IPO. They were going to IPO off the back of Klaviyo. I read this last night, actually.
Right.
But they've now decided they're going to delay their IPO because they raised at a $360 million valuation. Their current valuation's at about 200 something. So just because of how slow their growth has been in the last 12 months since Klaviyo's IPO. And it seems that's kind of hitting the retail tech market. But anyway, we can get into that one later because we made a boo-boo. In particular, I did, because I said that no one would buy Booktopia. I said it right here in this podcast that, no one's going to buy it. It's going to be sold for parts, and someone has come in and bought it. So they have been purchased by DigiDirect. who appear to be like I don't really know too much about DigiDirect, to be perfectly honest. I've never heard about them from before, but they have come in and they have purchased all of Booktopia, and they are looking to bring it back, to revive it as a business. They're looking to rehire staff, but just build the team up again, and to kind of get back to what they were doing before. Paul, had you heard of DigiDirect before?
I reckon I've seen them on my bank statement. Do they do cameras or something like that?
I don't know. I don't even know what other businesses they have. And
they do cameras. Yes, I have bought from them before. And it was fine. So they do, they do cameras. So all about electronics. So, it's a natural progression into books, which is fine. But this is interesting. I don't know anything about them as a business, but clearly, the owner there, I think it is founder and owner, Shant, a guy called Shant, says that he likes diversification. Well, it doesn't get much more diverse than moving from photo and video to books. This is going to be real. I'm sort of surprised. Like, we have no idea, I don't think, where what he paid or anything like that. But this is I am surprised. Like, he sort of says it's a perfect natural fit given my background. I guess he means he's got a strong background in e-commerce. I don't know what he's got planned. I'm sure he's a super successful dude and like knows what he's doing. But this is going to be really interesting, Mal, to see what exactly, like, do they just carry on selling books, do you think? Or does he use this as an opportunity to, I don't know, distribute another electronics brand? Like, what do you think he's going to do with a pretty challenging industry, like sector?
Well, he said he's going to keep it as a bookstore. He talks about the heritage and the reason why he bought it, that Booktopia is one of the stalwarts of Australian e-commerce. So the opportunity to be its new custodian is something which excited him. He talks about like the impact Booktopia has had on Australian literature as being Australia's home of books, which is all well and good, but it kind of misses the fact that it's not so much the fact that there's something fundamentally wrong. The biggest problem with the business is demand. That there's not enough demand for books from Booktopia, where people were happy to keep buying it elsewhere at a better price. And books were essentially commoditized because Booktopia didn't actually own any particular niche or specialization when it came to that book. So I feel just reviving it as it was is probably not a great move, particularly when he's talking about like they've got a state-of-the-art robotics warehouse. There's a great asset there. But again, those things are like, well, it's table stakes because that's what Amazon does. So is that you can't convince someone to buy for you because I've got robots in my warehouse. That's a lot of businesses have that. Swooped have robots in their warehouse. So I think it's got to be more than that. Like, we don't really know what the business strategy is or what the plan is. But if what's his name? If Shant is listening to this, Shant, give us a call. We'd love to talk to you about how to potentially narrow down your focus at Booktopia into specific niches. Because I just think that competing against Amazon or any other large bookseller who's only selling books is going to be a tough game. Because Kmart and Target, they're buying those same best-selling titles and selling them at a loss.
I guess I was reading the article, like, this guy's obviously successful. So, and I reckon he's got plans, that he's certainly not, he's seen something in this brand. That's clear. The article is, super generic. And that's fine. Like, this guy can do what he wants with it. But like, kind of sort of saying he did his due diligence on the business and saw that the margins were strong. Where did he say? The margins were strong and the fundamentals were good and the sales were good. Well, it can't all have been good, Shan. It ended up not going so well. So love the positive spin and the energy that he's going to bring to it. But I'm pretty sure that due diligence would have found that there are some, horrendous metrics somewhere in there, right? Otherwise, they probably wouldn't have run out of money. But look, I mean, he's got a good attitude. He's going in. He finishes the article by saying, if we have to invest, we'll invest, and we'll invest again. So it's clear this guy's got plenty of money. He's probably done really, really well, and he's going to throw it. He's bringing in 100 staff into DigiDirect, so he's going to throw everything at getting this right. There's nothing there that it sort of says we just want to get it back to its old revenue and do that through good customer. So, like, no, I think it's going to need a fair bit more than that, Mal. But I'm pretty sure Bloke doesn't get this successful by just kind of saying like, we can do it. I'm pretty sure he's got a few tricks up his sleeve, I'm sure.
Well, how long do we give him before we talk about Booktopia again?
I guess we wait to see their next results. But give them some slack. They're not going to. You can't do anything in 90 days, so we've got to probably wait a little bit. But be interested to see their next results, and I sincerely hope they get back to profitability and that this really works out well, and that this is a success story. You'd have to think he paid an absolute. He paid peanuts for this, Mal, right? Because books, Amazon booming. You're not going to pay a premium, are you? So, I mean, I guess we got to remember the deal is done. The value in a business as an owner that is really in the deal that you do. So he's probably paid peanuts for this and thinks he can probably make some improvements and make his money back. And I'm sure he's a smart operator. So you'd have to think he got it for a very good price, right?
Do you think they're going to Booktopia will go public again?
Nah, I mean, it doesn't seem to be this guy's model. I don't think.
DigiDirect isn't public.
No, so I don't think so. I think he just bolts it onto what he's doing, leverages some of what he's already, he's probably got, marketing already humming along. He's probably got his own ops, although he mentions he's going to keep the warehouse, I think. Maybe he was already looking for a warehouse and he consolidates. Like, we don't know. I can't see it going public again. Like, it would have to be the most unsexiest IPO of all time if it goes public again. What's the saying? Twice bitten, or whatever it is.
Once bitten, twice shy.
Once bitten, twice shy. But look, I hope he goes really well, privately owned. I hope he kills it, and good luck to him. He's obviously got his hands full, but let's see what he can do.
All right. Well, we're going to revisit the story let's give it about 6 months before we come back to it. Okay. Oh, wait, hang on. I just saw in my ticker have confirmed that they've secured a buy. No.
Breaking news, Mal.
No, I thought they'd said that they'd resumed trade, but it was trade on the website, not trade on the stock market.
Okay. I have no idea. But we get instantly proved wrong.
Yeah, it's like, oh my God, they are going public again.
I have no idea how that works. So I just say, I just wish him well. I think he's got big guts, and I'm sure what he's saying in that article is not even half of what he's got up his sleeve.
Yeah. Speaking of which, since I just had the ticker up, Guzman and Gomez, our favorite stock, they're up $35.
Well,
from $30. Like, wow, that's it's a great Ponzi scheme.
People like nachos, Mal.
Yeah. Wouldn't mind a taco right now. All right. Next story. Pip Edwards has stepped down from PE Nation. So earlier this year, Claire Greaves, the other co-founder in PE Nation, also stepping back from the business. Pip was staying on board as the sole director, creative director in the business. She is now stepping down from her role as creative director, meaning that the two founders of PE Nation are no longer there. And it's also happening at the time where they have been announcing to much fanfare their rebranding and their repositioning in the market. Look, they've said that all the right things, that it's time, that she's had an incredible run. It's time for her to hand the role over, but she's going to stay on board as a director and a substantial shareholder. Are you taking this at face value, or do you think there might be something else going
on? There's been sort of chatter, hasn't there, about PE Nation maybe over the last 6 months. Or year, maybe. I mean, I don't profess to know anything about what's going on there aside from the things that you kind of hear. Like, I don't know, where there's smoke, there's fire. Both founders stand down. I guess when things are really humming along, you maybe don't do that, Mal. Like, you probably just stay in, or the good news story is usually like you just stay in and you keep going, or the other good news story is like Pip Edwards and such, Claire Greaves secure massive payday because they've sold out. It's not generally like, oh, huge news, amazing news, the founders have stepped down. Well, that's, to me, like suggests a change in strategic direction, maybe because something potentially might not be working. But again, I don't want to say I know that because I don't, but it's just when you see key management, and they will both work owners, but they were key directors and key management, step aside, that's massive transition. And usually, I'm going to say usually, a shareholder doesn't want that sort of change, seismic shift in a really humming company. You just do everything to keep it as it is. So change can often occur when things aren't going great. That's just a hunch. Like, I really have no idea. But yeah, I mean, how do you see it?
I look similar to you. It's like I look at it going like, if this is not the typical move of a founder leaving on a high, it feels like things are potentially not going as well as they were expected to. Not saying that they may be bad. I don't not privy to that. But it feels like a move which happens when things aren't going the way you plan, and then you need to make a bit of a drastic change. In particular, from a cultural standpoint, you do need to make that change of direction, because you're trying to pivot the company towards something else. And PE Nation are venture backed, I believe, or at least they do have private equity behind them, which is great. But those guys want to grow. Those guys are they're only in it to grow. So when you look at PE Nation, if you look at particularly Google Trends, which is all I really have to go on, both in the US and in Australia, PE Nation has been trending down and have been trending down for the last 2 years. So this is where other brands, like let's say an LSKD, for instance, or even a Muscle Republic, have been trending up. So they've continued to grow throughout this, whereas PE Nation appears to have hit their high, hence why they're going through the whole rebranding, they're repositioning away from that blend of activewear / contemporary fashion, which is what they were known for, towards now looking kind of generic in terms of what they're putting out there. So and I don't know whether that's because they've kind of decided that that's the way they need to go, or whether that's where they think the culture's going. I'm not too sure what's behind that. But this sort of move where your creative director, one of your co-founders, steps out like this rather than exiting, suggests that they're not going out on a high because they couldn't find a buyer for it, but you're almost being pushed out. That's kind of my hunch.
That's how I've seen it play out before. Yeah, I agree. Like when this happens, because when things are smooth sailing, mate, those PE, those private equity groups, they ain't letting you go anywhere. They're trying to like keep you happy, keep you in the game, particularly the founder, particularly two founders. So you would have to think like probably, I agree with your assumption, and particularly if the Google Trends usually don't lie, Mal. So the other thing is, like, you made a good point about like LSKD, which is going, as all accounts going well, and then there's also Muscle Republic, Vic going so great. There's other brands there. So there's a finite amount of spend that goes into a category, into athleisure. And we know that retail has, gone back a little bit. So let's just say that there's a finite amount that's not growing. And we know that, well, hang on, there's a big piece that there's a pie. And then people like Muscle Republic are taking that pie. Actually, their share has to come from somewhere. It's not really all about new people who suddenly just are added to the pie. That's how it works. You take market share. And I wonder if some of these other brands, like, Vic Muscle Republic has grown tremendously well. That's significant market share that he could be taking from brands like PE Nation. So in terms of the, I'm not their customer, but I also don't get it. I don't quite get the aesthetic anymore. I think I used to get it. Like, I still get some of it, but it's this hybrid. And again, I'm not a women's fashion buyer by any stretch, but it is a bit of a hybrid kind of situation where I was like, oh, it's a nice spray jacket. Yeah, the occasion is I'm going to go and do the Bondi to Bronte. And then it's like, and here's a mesh top that's maybe looks like it's suited to the dance floor. Again, I find it a little bit confusing now where they kind of fit into the landscape. But, you would have to think that they've probably lost a bit of position to some of the brands that you just mentioned. And, yeah, I guess watch this space.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of the other brands like LSKD, for instance, Muscle Republic, they focus on really building a community and really being active in sport. So whether it be running, cycling, boxing, you name it,
Yeah.
all those brands are very active in those niches. Just like we were talking about, Nike used to be as well. Whereas P Nation isn't really active in any one of those niches. It doesn't really own a foothold anywhere besides being this hybrid, athleisure slash contemporary fashion brand. And it's hard to maintain a position like that, given that fashion changes so quickly as well, that their aesthetic from a few years ago clearly wasn't resonating anymore. People had enough of it and they just haven't pivoted. And now they're pivoting to something, and maybe they are throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, just looking at the Google trends, you're right. Like they had a massive high in about 2020, and then it's really steadily drifted away. I guess fashion can be cyclical, and they were certainly a big influence in the fashion stakes there for a while. And I wonder if, for whatever reason, as you say, they kind of maybe haven't found their home. And it was a brand built on Pip Edwards. Like she's a well-known stylist and well-known personality, and people
Sassified.
and people who follow her probably follow the brand. And I wonder, I really wonder what's going to happen now that she's a shareholder still, a major shareholder, I believe. But I wonder just now with her stepping back, if that's even going to be worse still. Anyway, it depends. Like we'll see how it goes. But it's like my feeling, given by what we've just said, is that it feels like things haven't been maybe going to plan.
And also now you have lost Pip Edwards, and she is the PE in PE Nation.
Yeah, do they just become Nation now?
Are you trying to pivot that towards Physical Education Nation? Or?
But she is still a shareholder, I believe, and
right.
and maybe a director or something. But anyway, and shout out to Jevon, former managing director of PE Nation, who did an awesome job running that business, and maybe they wish he was still there.
All right, we're going to move on to Baby Bunting. So Baby Bunting, again, earnings season. So you get to see all the retail brands, what their financials were for the last 12 months, what's and all. And Baby Bunting had a shocker. So yet again, they saw their sales drop off. So this time sales were down 3.4% on last year, while their in-store revenue was down 6.4%. But even worse was that their GP was down 4.8%. So the GP was down greater than their gross sales, and also and gross margin down 36.8%. So really challenging times. But the interesting thing about their challenges are that they saw a bigger drop in their online revenue than they did in their in-store revenue. In particular, a big margin difference as well, where their margins online were significantly worse than what they were in store.
There's so much interesting stuff in this one. You sort of huge sales, down a little bit, but it was the profit that dropped from 9.9 to 1.7. Now that's a huge decline in profit. Yep, the sales were down, but 3.4%. The gross profit was down, 4.8%. But it doesn't mention the OPEX, but you'd have to say that the OPEX must have been through the roof, right? I mean, my maths is not quick enough, but there's significant declines in GP and rev, but like a massive decline in profit. So it feels like they've ramped up their operating expenses and at the same time being hit by declining sales and margin. Looking at inventory management, they've managed to reduce their inventory by 7 million. 7 million. I'm imagining that's at cost, but maybe not, but that's how we usually say it. That reduced by 7 million. Now, when you think about that, they've reduced by 7 million. That means they were overstocked and their margin's down. Overstocked, margin down, discounting to move through stock. Discounting hurts bottom line. Discounting hurts margin. Discounting hurts everything. So, man, like this is a tough one. That's just an astronomical decrease in profit. I gotta say, Mal, like, disappointing if you're a shareholder there. Like, there's brands that we speak to that probably no one's heard of on a daily basis whose profits are double, triple that, that are turning over 10, 15 mil. So it doesn't matter which way you look at it. That's like not great.
I think it's also such a competitive space as well. So like baby furniture, baby goods, particularly with the rise of marketplaces, and again, we're going to bring up like Temu and things like that. Like, there's no the incentive to go only to baby bunting is disappearing because there's so many other options. So baby bunting does have quite a significant store network. They've got 70 very large stores around Australia, which is fantastic. But they also can't compete with online when there's so many players online. That's kind of how I view things. And look, I think they've got a great CEO. So Mark Tipperson, who came from Accent Group, is a fantastic operator and at one point was my CMO crush. But I think it's just such a competitive market, particularly with lower consumer demand as well. That they're having to resort, like everyone else, like a lot of other brands, to discounting. Without really being able to show what do they actually have, which is different, except for the store network, where they can actually go there and they saw the increase in in-store sales because they can actually offer that customer service, that recommendation piece, which you can't get online. But if you know the exact cot you want to get, you're just going to go order online. It's become very commoditized.
True. You're right. I agree with all of that. There's a lot of new competitors. There's a lot more choice online. I think what stands out to me in this is the gross profit margin of 36.8. I didn't realize that this industry was such a low margin kind of business. I guess they buy a lot of brands, your Bugaboos and stuff. So they're essentially like, they're not a D2C business by any stretch, by the sounds of it. But maybe that's on their agenda to do more private label stuff to boost that GP up.
But you also adding the discounts in there. So like, if you're buying other people's brands anyway, your GP is probably going to be sub 50%, right? And then you're adding 10 to 15% discount on top of that. That's how you get to that low 40s, high 30s GP.
Yeah, couple that with the increased cost of wages, with the increased cost of logistics, with the increased competitor, activity, and all of that sort increased cost of paid media. Like, it's hard. Like, for low margin business, it's hard. It does, and we wish Mark all the best. Like, you've got a hard job, but it sounds like he's off to a good start in FY25. First 7 weeks is up 3.5% growth. That's a really good start in a huge business. So it sounds like they have identified what they need to do, and they're right sizing it, the inventory and all that sort of stuff. And, let's hope they have a much better year.
Look, and let's face it, the good thing about a business like baby bunting is that it will never go out of fashion.
Well, hopefully there'll always be babies, unless AI, AI takes over. But
AI baby. Maybe AI babies will cry less.
That'd be nice.
All right. One we are going to finish up on is something which I've been reading about a lot lately, which is the rise of Gen Z loneliness, which is then prompting Gen Zs to actually escape from tech. So an interesting article which came out on PR Week a few weeks ago was saying how a lot of Gen Zs, I'm not even sure how to define Gen Zs, are actually giving up their phones. They're deliberately either bricking their phones or getting dumb phones so that they don't get distracted. Because they've grown up by seeing their parents, like you or I, spend all their time on phones, well, not parents, like older brothers, I guess, spend all their time in tech, live their lives in tech, and they've gone, hey, do you know what? We don't want that. We want to reconnect.
That's cool. I mean, I'll believe it when I see it, but I hope that's the case, for our kids now that they ditched the phone. Well, they're all a bit young at the moment, but I think there's a stat here in the article that says the average American will spend 21 years on their phone across the course of their life, and soon we'll have to teach Gen Z and Gen Alpha basic social skills. Yeah, I totally get that. I think it's like, I'm sort of pleasantly surprised by this article. I think that's cool. I think, Jake at G'd Up this week for the last week has locked his phone in a safe because, he made a good point. Like, look at the screen time. And it's like, I'm working an 8-hour day on my phone. Yeah. And he reckons that he locked his phone literally in a safe at work, and reckons that he's noticed a dramatic improvement in everything, mood, function, the whole thing. And I got to say, like, it definitely got me thinking about it as well. I think this is great. Like, this is a nice story. I love the idea that these guys are, what did you say, dumb phones or
Dumb phones.
what's a dumb phone?
So dumb phone, like which can't connect to the internet. No browser, no apps, no anything. Like your old Nokia 3210, which I have one floating around. Or you can apparently get an app called Brick, which will allow you to brick your phone and revert it back to only being able to do phone calls. Next time I go out for dinner with a group of mates, I'm going to insist that everyone use that. But what I found really interesting about this was that it's then leading brands, and they've talked about Sephora as being one of them, Calvin Klein, to actually embrace the fact that, okay, well, if people are going to be spending more time out in the real world, let's create more real world experiences. So Sephora held an event. The dog's gone crazy there. Sephora held an event, sold out an experiential event with tickets at $150. There was a recent podcast as well, the Made podcast, which the Acquired podcast have sold out a stadium in America for a live recording. Maybe we'll do that one day. So it's showing that cool. People are transferring that online presence to real world, because that's where we want to do more and more things. And they're talking about brands like Carhartt, Dickies, Salomon, who are all about being outside in nature, hiking, running, trail running, becoming more and more popular because people are wanting to spend more time outdoors, hopefully engaging with each other, being more social with each other IRL than living their lives on their screens.
That seems natural. I mean, that seems like a natural desire. I think the podcasting thing's interesting because I noticed Theo Von, I mean, he was a comedian, but I noticed he's taken his thing on the road, and podcasters are starting to do that. Joe Rogan's getting out and about again. This is interesting. I hope that that's the case and that people are still craving that physical experience. Well, we kind of know they are because retail is still, people still have the desire to go to malls and have those experiences. The numbers would show us. But I kind of think this is interesting. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means long term for when those guys can actually get money and start spending it. But I wouldn't give up on TikTok just yet as a platform, I guess.
I wouldn't give up on it, but I'd definitely be thinking about what can you do in the physical world. If you can't open a store, can you do an event? Can you do something in that space? I've got one of my clients is going to be doing a Christmas pop-up very soon, which is going to be really cool. But it's an opportunity to get the community together, do an event which is very aligned to what they're all about with their customers. It creates a little bit of a brand moment. So from a branding piece as well, we talked about Nike last week, where their focus purely on performance marketing eroded the brand equity.
Yeah.
And so now they're trying to get back to do that. So it really does benefit to be doing stuff in the real world where you can really build a brand moment rather than just relying on an ad scrolling past your, on your screen to get attention. I have no idea what my dog's doing there, but she is trying to get into my bin. So I'm thinking,
she wants a cameo. She wants a cameo on the podcast.
If I pick her up, they'll have fur all over my black sweater. So,
but yeah, fully agree on their physical experience. Like Zane at Maison de Sabre was talking this week about they've got whatever handful of buses or trucks branded up going around New York City, and I think that's cool. They did a great billboard recently, and Omar's talking about can we do vending machines? Always talking about how we can have that. That's the one thing as e-commerce brands that we still don't have is how do we tap into the sensory experience? And I agree, like pop-ups, Tara Proud Poppy's been doing pop-up national tour of pop-ups. Budgie Smuggler's opening a new store at the moment in Newcastle. 100% there's still something to be, there's so many moments. There's revenue moments, but there's also the content moments, the engagement moments, just that kind of building trust between the consumer. So I mean, I think there's still a massive offline kind of thing that can be tapped into. And it's nice to see these guys are indicating that they're going to get off their phones. And I have noticed JB Hi-Fi sell on the homepage, or one of the main pages had the Nokia actually on the.
Comeback.
Yeah, maybe I'm pretty sure that's dictated by the VM's dictated by some sort of science. So maybe they're back in demand. I might buy one because they might go like, nah. Will they be a collector's item? Do you think one day?
Probably not. I've got a few old Nokias lying around. But the thing which gets me is I've often thought about not bringing my phone, particularly when I'm working, that I've just put my phone somewhere else. But the thing which always gets me, two-factor authentication. because I need my phone for that. So I'm just like, I'm constantly going back and forth. I've got to log into this account. I've got to log into that account. So I'm just going back and forth for 2FA. And it just takes up, and then I'm just, I'll just leave the phone here. But right now my phone's actually behind me. It's sitting there on the charger. So I don't have it right in front of me. But yeah, you always need it for something.
It's hard to be mindful with your phone, and mindfulness is one of the keys to kind of relaxation and stuff. And so, maybe we challenge everybody here, go for a walk and leave your phone at home and just experience the sounds and the sights and be mindful.
That's what my therapist keeps telling me to do.
Yeah. I've been doing it, like, albeit because I accidentally, but, it was interesting. And that is that definition of mindfulness is just observe what you can see and stuff. And I got to say, like, I was like, oh, I'm going to be so bored. It was kind of cool. Like, it was kind of cool to hear the sounds and feel the feels. And maybe that's a challenge that people can.
Did you do it again after that?
Yeah, I did actually. Like, it's interesting because I like the AirPods, and sometimes I listen to music or meditation or whatever. So, but I did do it again, and I have been trying to just like put it in another room, particularly at night and stuff like that. And it definitely quietens things down in the head and makes it calmer. And realistically, like, what am I going to miss out on for an hour? Like a couple of phone calls from mum, a couple of likes on Instagram. I'm okay with that.
Couple of likes. You get more than a couple of likes in an hour.
Dozens.
All right. On that note, while Paul goes to check how many likes he has got in the last 35 minutes, that's all we've got time for on This Week in E-Commerce. Thanks for joining us again. We'll be back next week.
See you guys.